Good morning, my friends, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you to our class today. For those doing MAC 3761, this acts as a test preparation class. And for those who are doing MAC 3701, I think you are already looking forward to your exam in less than a month. All right. We have to understand that whatever we are doing today is not necessarily the test that you are writing tomorrow. But what we are doing is the concepts that might affect you in your test. So what I want you to understand is not necessarily the answer, but the way in which we are going to do the things, the concepts on how you answer the questions that I will be dealing with, and the various ways in which you can deal with the scenarios that we shall have. So please make sure that you understand the concepts, and I would urge you not to just be writing whatever we'll be doing and whatever I'll be saying without probing them. I expect you to be having a copy somewhere where it is accessible of the question paper that I've sent whilst we are doing everything that we shall be doing, so that you can be following, so that when you try to understand on your own, there will not be any total confusion. You will be somewhere. All right. I hope this session shall be very helpful in ensuring that tomorrow we can do well. Right. So the way I've structured it, there's one area that I put on the first question. The purpose of that is just to know in case you have it, the joint and byproduct costing, how it is done. But I know that usually for the test one, you should make sure that you know how to do your break even. You should know how to do the direct and absorption costing. You should know usually your ABC costing. Usually those are the main things for the first test. So make sure that you are okay with that. So you would use what we're going to do today in addition to the stuff that we did in class. Combine them to produce a better result. Right, I'm going to try to do almost everything that I sent to you. We'll see if time permits, but it's not just about rushing to finish. Yes, I believe that even doing the little but you understand it's better than doing everything and you don't understand. So we're going to, but of course we'll try to manage our time to ensure that maybe we can try to finish. Right. My first question is on joint and byproduct costing and relevant costing. Relevant costing, we've covered that. I think it's one area that I didn't look at, but I think I thought we did a lot of questions on that. So please also go back and look at relevant costing. Go back and look at relevant costing. We've done a lot on that. I think you can refer to our recordings and stuff. All right. Shinwa Limited is a manufacturer of paper products. The company operates a process where two joint products and a byproduct are manufactured. The joint products are newspaper printing paper and cardboard box making paper. And the byproduct is pulp. There was no opening inventory on 1 March. Right, I'll quickly explain the theory behind this joint and byproduct costing, considering that we haven't covered it. Joint and byproduct costing. Right. Joint costing, we use it when we produce multiple products using the same production process. It's unlike process costing. With process costing, we will be producing the same product in masses, that is in large quantities, but exactly the same product, standard product. But when we talk about joint and byproduct costing, you'll be producing more than one product using the same process. Right. Let me maybe depict it. Let's say here we've got our input. It goes, this is the input. Let's say this is oil that goes into our process here, production process. Then let's say the process is in the form of fractional distillation. And at the end of the process, we're going to get petrol, diesel, paraffin. So you'd find that the nature of byproduct costing is that when you are in this process, you cannot distinguish the products. You cannot tell that this is this one or this is this one. We can look at maybe even the production of drinks. You'd find that they can do the same process up to a certain stage. Then they'll just add the flavoring at the end. Then they separate that this is now strawberry, this is now chocolate, this is now what. Right. So we're saying from the input stage up to the end of the joint production process, you cannot identify the product. Then they reach this stage where now we can identify the product, which we call the split off point. So the split off point is the point at which we can now tell that this is petrol, this is diesel, this is paraffin. That's the split off point. And you will see that even after this, there can be what we call further processing. So at the split off point, some of the products might even need further processing beyond the split off point. Right. Now you'd find that the issue is about how do we determine the cost of each product. These further processing costs are not a problem because you know that you already know that these ones are for petrol, these ones are for diesel, because they are incurred after the products are identifiable. The issue is how do we allocate the costs that are incurred at this stage? That is the main protection process. That's where the issue is. How much of those costs should be allocated to petrol? How much should be go to diesel? How much should go to paraffin? Right. Now we've got different methods that we can use to do that. Right. Let me just remove that. So I think joint and byproduct costing is used where multiple products are produced using the same process. These products will not be identifiable until they reach the split off point. We can also talk about the example of when you have your cow, you slaughter it. At the beginning, it's just a cow. When you've slaughtered, that's when you carry out the process. That's when you now have your grade A meat, grade B, you have your offals, you have your heads and stuff like that. They will be separated after the process. All right. Now we've got two types of products. The joint products. The main product with significant sales value. And the reason for undertaking the production process. So we are seeking those when we start our production process. We are looking for those products. Those are the reason why we are undertaking the production process. Then we've got what we call byproducts. These are products with insignificant sales value. And are only incidental. Or although not the main desired products, they are inevitable. Due to the nature of the process. When you are selling meat, your intention is not to produce sawdust. But the moment that you are cutting your meat, there will be sawdust. And that sawdust can also be sellable. But you are not intending to produce sawdust. In the production of steel companies, they are not intending to produce tar. But the chemical processes that produce steel will produce tar. And they will sell the tar. You might find that another business does not use maybe let's say you are a butcher, you mainly specialize in selling the actual meat. You don't sell offals, but the offals will come out. And what do you have to do? You have to sell them somewhere else to those who want them. But your main business is selling the other meat. Same as, let's say you are selling broilers, you dress them and stuff like that. Your business is selling the broiler, but then when you are addressing them, you have to remove those inside parts, and then maybe you can just sell them to the community, but they are not your main products that you supply to your main market, right? So we should know that when we are doing joint and byproduct costing, the joint costs are allocated to the joint products only. We don't allocate costs to byproducts. So we only allocate the costs to joint products. We don't allocate costs to byproducts. Right. The joint costs to be allocated will be equal to the joint costs incurred minus net realizable value of byproduct. You might find that the byproduct sometimes can be sellable. As I was giving the example that you maybe are selling main chicken parts, then those offals you can also sell them. When you sell them, you are going to get something. So the net realizable value is the selling price. Let me not say call it selling price, sales minus now cost incurred on byproducts. At the split of point. Right. The next question is, okay, you have those joint costs. How do you allocate the joint costs? Right. There are different ways in which the joint costs can be allocated. Right. We can use physical standard measures. This allocates according to the quantities of the joint products at the split of point. So allocate according to the quantities that we have at the split of point. Overall sales, that's why I say sales. The overall sales of the joint products, this is only of the joint products.
Eugene? Sorry, sir, there's people waiting to be let in class.
I can't hear you.
There's people in the queue, they're wanting to be let into the class.
Okay. I think I've admitted them all. I don't know what is happening there. Maybe they are struggling with network.
Oh,
okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So we're talking about the total sales of the we'll be talking about when we're talking about the net realizable value, is the net realizable value of the byproduct. So the total sales of the byproduct minus any additional costs that you might need packaging after the split off point. So you have to subtract that. Right. When I say the physical standard measure, we allocate the joint costs according to the quantities. If they are kgs, you use the kgs of the joint products at the split off point, only the joint products. We allocate joint costs to the joint products. We can also use the sales value at split off point. That means here we allocate the joint costs based on the total sales value of the joint product at the split off point. And you should note that the sales value at the split off point might be different to the final sales value. The sales value at the split, because remember, some of the products might need further processing, so which can enhance the sales value. Right. We can also allocate according to the net realizable value at the split off point. And the net realizable value is the sales minus further costs incurred after the split off point.
Can you guys mute yourselves, please?
Right. So we can use the net realizable value after the split off point. Right. Then we have got constant gross profit margin. Right, with the constant gross profit margin, the joint costs are allocated based on the, sorry, we can say in a way that ensures that all joint costs and the same gross profit percentage. So we can have a target gross profit. So we can allocate them in such a way that at the end of the day, the gross profit percentage for each product is the same. So these are the 4 ways that we can be able to use to allocate the joint costs. Right, I think I will look at this further on Wednesday. I wouldn't like to waste more time on that. So we're going to continue with that on Wednesday in detail. Right. So now I will focus on this question here. Right. Shinwa Private Limited is a manufacturer of paper products. The company operates a process where 2 joint products and a byproduct are manufactured. So there are 2 joint products and a byproduct. The joint products are newspaper, printing paper, and cardboard box making paper. These are the main products. The joint products are the main products, which are the reason for us undertaking the production process. And then there's a byproduct, which is pulp. Pulp is the byproduct. There was no opening inventory on 1 March 2014. The following information relates to the month of March 2014, which represents a typical month. These are the processes here. We have the production and the tons sold and the selling price per ton. Then the following costs were incurred in March 2014. We have a list of the costs. Right. Then we're told that when you're doing joint and byproduct costing, they will always tell you the method that the entity is using to allocate the joint costs. Now we are told that joint costs are allocated on the basis of sales value at split off point. So we're going to use the sales value at split off point. And note that when we say sales value, we're talking about the sales value of all the units produced. Not all, this one is per selling price per ton. So we have to multiply this by all the tons produced, not necessarily the sales. So we're talking about the sales value of all the tons produced. So we'll be allocating according to their final sales value. Right. Then the company's policy is to allocate net profits from the sale of the byproducts to the joint cost. That's what I told you, that's our general approach, unless told otherwise. That what if the byproduct is sellable, whatever you gain from the byproduct should be subtracted from the joint cost. Right. Pulp, that is the byproduct, can be processed further after split off point and sold at 2,000 per ton. To accomplish this, the company will have to rent new machinery at a cost of 3,000 per ton. The machine will have to be insured at 700 per month. Manufacturing labor cost will be 25,000 per month, and raw materials will be 20,000 per month for this alternative. Right. Now, they want us to calculate the total value of closing inventory for the month of March if pulp is not processed further. So we're going to ignore that passage that I've highlighted, because they said if pulp is not processed further. Now they want the value of closing inventory. Now you are in the exam or test. When they want closing inventory, you should know what is it that I normally use to calculate my closing inventory. Then you know that, okay, for you to calculate closing inventory, you need to know how many units are in inventory, and you need to know what is the cost per unit. Those are the 2 things that determine the value of inventory: the number of units and the cost per unit. And you should know that the cost per unit can be determined according to absorption costing, can be determined according to direct costing. But here we're not talking about direct costing or absorption costing, so we assume that it's just the abnormal absorption costing. When they don't talk about direct costing, unless those are the specific areas that we strictly use direct costing, we just assume that it's absorption costing there. Right. Now there was no opening inventory. I think I read somewhere where they said that there was no opening inventory. Now when there is no opening inventory, our closing stock will be production less tons sold. So let's calculate our closing inventory units. Let me just so we said that closing inventory value is equal to closing inventory units multiplied by cost per unit. Right. So then let's do our calculation of closing inventory. Let's remember from our previous sessions on budgeting and directed absorption costing, our formula for calculating our closing inventory. Right. So we've got two products here. Right. The products that we have. Let me just open this paper so that I can be able to also access it. Right, there is newspaper printing paper. Then we've got cardboard box making paper. These are our two products. And they are measured in units and in units. Not in units, I think they are in tons. Tons. Sorry, this is tons. Right, our formula for calculating closing inventory units, it's sales opening inventory, which we're told that there was nothing. The production or purchases if you are purchasing. And we know that from the production, we had 700 and 800. Right. I didn't include the pulp because all the pulp was sold. All the pulp was sold. So we have 700 and 800. Right. Less sales. Our sales, we have 600 and 700. But that's the one that I normally use every day. If we use a bigger one, won't that be too big? Okay, let me just try to put on 14. But the one that I was using is the one that we use every day. Okay. Right. I think she can't see from your phone. I think you are very right. Right. So this is how we get our closing inventory. Units. So that means there were 100 tons of newspaper printing paper and 100 tons of cardboard box making paper at the end of the period. Now we want to know the cost per unit so that we can multiply to get our, because remember we said the value is the units times the cost per unit. Right, for us to know the cost per unit, we have to know the cost of all the newspaper printing paper and then divide by the tons that are produced. Right, first of all, we have to calculate the joint costs that are supposed to be allocated. All right, let's calculate the joint costs to be allocated to the product. Right, we have to add up all those joint production process costs. These are the costs that we have. Right, but you should be very careful. Not all of those costs are production related costs. So we have to include those that are production related. So we'd include the raw materials, manufacturing labor, manufacturing overheads. We don't include the insurance of administration building. It has nothing to do with the production. Head office, security officer salary, depreciation of head office building, administration overheads. We don't include them. They have nothing to do with the production. But if it was, for example, depreciation of the factory, then we're going to include it. Right, so include only these first three. Those are the joint production process costs. Remember that we only, when we are valuing inventory, we only include production cost. So we have raw materials, which is 800,000. Manufacturing labor, which is 200,000. Manufacturing overheads, which is 300,000. Right, then we get our total costs. Right, then less net realizable value of byproduct. In this part of the question, we've been told to assume that there's no further processing of the byproduct. So just take its selling price. We know that the byproduct is pulp, right? The production was 200 tons and to be sold at 200 per ton. So sorry, at 1.5 per ton. These are 200 tons to be sold at 1.5 per ton. So would say 200 times 1.5. What do we get?
Hi, Eugene.
Yes.
I just wanted to find out
That NRV value, do we always subtract by the byproduct, even though it was not processed further?
Yes. Remember, we say sales. We're not saying we subtract the net realizable value if it's sold further. As long as it's sellable, even if it's sellable, because you can sell it in its format on the like on the split off point. Processing further will just add value so that you can sell it at a higher price. But even if you sell it straight after the split off point, you subtract its net realizable value, even if it's not processed further. Processing further does not affect its sales value. It's only that if it's not processed further, there are no additional costs to subtract. Remember, we said on the net realizable value, you'd check the sales minus additional costs. Is that right? The only difference is that we don't have additional costs. That's the only difference.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So then the joint costs to be allocated would be so these are the costs that have to be allocated to the joint product. Right. Now the question is, how do we allocate them?
Eugene? Sorry, sir.
Yes.
The what you call 1.5, I understand the 200 and the 1.5, what is that for? Can you
The selling price.
Oh,
It's 200
okay.
tons being sold at 1.5. Here it is, selling price per ton. The 200
okay,
is the ton.
thanks.
Then the 1.5 is the selling price. Yeah, Teres is asking how about if they are not sellable? Yes, would subtract the total selling price of all the products because we're saying finally they will be sold. As long as they are sellable. And sometimes you find that you might also have what we call waste. Waste is not sellable. Instead of selling it, it can even incur additional costs. So you actually add costs. Because it's not all products, because we can have a byproduct, we can also have what we call waste. Waste is not sellable. Actually, maybe you might even need, maybe according to the, let's say, for example, according to environmental laws, you might even incur additional costs to allocate that, to dump. Then you will have to even add that cost. So when we're considering the net realizable value, we look at the net realizable value of all the tons produced, even if they've not yet been sold. Because eventually we're saying they will be sold. Right.
Eugene, can I just ask something quickly?
Yes.
You just mentioned waste being a part of, that may be a part of the byproducts that may come from the production process.
No, waste is not a byproduct, it's a different one. It's a waste.
Yes, but what I mean is when we are now calculating this joint cost, we would then include that the cost of that waste.
Yes.
To get the joint cost.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Right. So then would have to check what is the method that they are using to allocate. They are using the what? Sales value, a split of point. Sales value, a split of point. So before we allocate, we have to determine the what? Sales value, a split of point. Right. We have got the newspaper printing paper, it's 700 tons. Now, when you are looking at your sales value, please, we are not saying this is the sales that we have earned during the period. We are saying the moment that we finish production, what is the value of all those units that are produced? So when you are determining the sales value, please, you use the produced units, not the sold units. Because we're saying we allocate according to, we want to allocate to all those units produced. So we're allocating to the goods produced based on their sales value. So you use the sales value of all the goods produced. So that means here, although they sold 600, when we're determining the sales value, we would use the 700 tons that were produced. So would have to get your sales value, it will be the number of tons produced times the selling price. So would say newspaper, printing paper. We have 700 times 10,000. I guess that would be 7 million. We have got cardboard box. Making paper. That would be 800 multiplied by 12,000. That would give us 9.6. Then we get our total. Right. So we'll then use these values to allocate this 1 million. So please, when you are determining your sales value, you use the total units produced, not the units sold. Then we'll have our allocation of joint costs. Remember that you are trying to allocate cost to units produced. Not remember, you have to allocate cost to all the units. Those produced, all the units produced, whether sold or unsold. When you are determining your unit cost, you need the cost of all the units that you have produced. So that's why we use the production units, not the sales units. We're not trying to determine the sales here. We're trying to determine the cost. And to determine the cost, we're allocating the cost according to the sales value of all those units that are produced. So we don't use sales units, we use produced units, not sold units. Because we're trying to allocate cost to all the produced units. Our aim here is to allocate cost to all the produced units. So we're allocating according to their sales value. When we're determining this cost, remember you have not yet sold. You just finished your production. You have not yet sold the product. Right. Then the allocation of the joint costs, newspaper, printing paper would be 7 million divided by 16.6 times 1 million. What do we get? $41,687. Right. Thank you. Then we'll have our cardboard. Making paper. 9.6 divided by 16.6 multiplied by 1 million. Thank you. Right. So that is 578313. Right. Then we now know that all the newspaper printing paper, their cost is this. Cardboard making paper, their cost is this. Then we can be able to determine our cost per unit. We know the tons. We know that the tons for a newspaper printing paper are 600. Cardboard are, sorry, the produced tons, they are 700 and 800. So we then divide by the number of tons. So we'd say newspaper printing paper four to 687 divided by 700. Just give me to 2 decimal places. Thank you. 1030.98. Right. Then cardboard box making paper.
Hi, Eugene.
Yes.
Because the question had said we need to calculate closing inventory, where we only supposed to end there, and then right now you're just showing us how to do the rest of the calculations, or we're supposed to do all these calculations.
What I think you were supposed to what?
The question was we need to calculate the closing inventory.
Yes.
So I'm asking where we only supposed to end at closing inventory, and now the calculations that you are doing, you're just showing us how to do them. Or
we don't have the closing inventory that they asked for.
Yes.
Well, we have not yet answered it.
We have not yet answered.
Is that the one, the closing inventory value?
Oh yes, value, not the units.
Yes, we have the
All
units, but we don't have the value.
Okay, no, it's fine.
Okay.
Hello, Eugene.
Okay, thank you so much also, Sharon. Yes, sir.
Yes, for the newspaper printing paper, I get 602.41, not 1030.
602.41.
Yeah. I don't know if everyone
That's
can just
confirmed.
confirm if that's what they're getting.
Then the other one, I think
That's
Leonora
correct.
and
I also get
getting different
602.
answers there.
I also
so
get 602.
I think the 602 has won the elections. Let's concentrate on the other one. The other one again is giving us different results from Leonora and Palisa. The other one is getting 723. The other one is getting 722.
I'm also getting 723.
602.
Did you divide by 800?
578. Sorry, sir, it's 578313, not 813.
313. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I'm the one who took the wrong one day. So it becomes what the correct answer? 722.89. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Right. So my sister who was asking, we now know the cost per unit. So now we can be able to determine our closing inventory value now. We know that it's 100 tons of each in inventory. So our newspaper printing paper would be 602.41 times the units in inventory, which are 100. We get 60,241. Joint cost, yes. The 1 million is the joint cost. Remember that we're allocating joint cost. So the 1 million is this one that we calculated here. The joint cost to be allocated to the 1 million here. Right. Then cardboard, box making paper. $722.89. The 100 that we're multiplying is the closing inventory. Remember, both of them at 100. then we get the total. Right, thank you so much. So that's our closing inventory value. Right, any questions? Right. Then the second part is now on relevant costing, which we also did. They said pulp can be processed further after split off point and sold at 2,000 per ton. To accomplish this, the company will have to rent new machinery at a cost of 3,000 per month. The machine will have to be insured at 700 per month. Manufacturing labor cost will be 25,000 per month, and raw materials will be 20,000 per month for this alternative. Right, if you are deciding on whether we should process further or not, we just have to find the incremental revenue minus the incremental cost. Incremental revenue minus incremental cost. Right, we know that currently we are selling at 1,500 per ton. So processing further will add 500 rand per ton. From 1,500 to 2,000 will have an increase of 500 per ton for all these 200 tons. Right, so we can say B, process pulp further. Right, would have our additional revenue. Which is the new selling price 2,000 minus the old selling price 1,500 times the number of tons, which are 200. The 2,000 is the new selling price. The 1,500 is the old selling with the price before the, if we don't produce further. Then the 200 is the number of tons of pulp that we are going to produce. What do we get? $100,000. So if we produce further, we're going to have an additional 100,000. Right. Then what are the costs? Pulp, to accomplish this, the company will have to rent new machinery at a cost of 3,000 per month. So we have to be very sure that are we dealing with a month or a year? Right. This one, the information is for a month. These production activities are for a month. So we want the monthly cost. But if it was for a year, then we're going to multiply by 12. So we can say our rent of machinery would have rent of machinery which is 3,000. Right. There is also these ones. Insurance 700 per month, manufacturing 25,000 per month, and raw materials 20,000 per month. They are all per month, so we just include them as they are. So we've got insurance, manufacturing labor, Right. Right, so we can say the pulp this will result in an increase in a net benefit of 51,300. As long as there's an a extra, we can conclude that they should process further. Right. Any questions? All right. Now the other methods that could be used to allocate this, we could allocate according to the physical standard measures. If we're using the physical standard, we're going to allocate according to the ratios of 700 and 800. We allocate according to the quantities produced. So that means it will be 700 and 800. We allocate that 1 million joint cost according to the 700 and 800 tons. So it says 700 over 1.5 times 1 million, and then 800 over 1.5 times 1 million. Question 1. Right, any questions? Right, we're done with question 1. Jambi, we're now moving on to question 2. Right, we'll do the other method.
Eugene, can I ask?
Yes.
I want to find out, for us to conclude that they should process further, which two things are we comparing, or how do we
No, we just
conclude that?
remember we just said the additional revenue that you are going to get by processing further minus any additional
Yes.
costs that you are going to incur. That's what we did.
So if we didn't get a positive amount, then we could have said they shouldn't
Yes.
process further. Okay.
Yes. Because you'll be suffering a loss. So if our answer was negative, then we're going to say no, 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 no. The cost of doing it are more than the benefits, so you should not do it. You compare the costs that are the further costs that you're going to incur, the further that are going to result from the decision against the additional revenue that you're going to get by selling the pulp at a higher price.
Hello,
Yes.
can I elaborate on that?
Hello?
Can I elaborate on that? The main aim for each and every business is to make profit. So if by further processing the pulp is going to result on additional cost, we are not supposed to process it further because we are going to run at a loss by processing it further. Hope this makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So it's a question of comparing the income, the additional income against the additional cost. Right. Let's go to the second question. Watch It Limited started off as a small family business a few decades ago, and has grown into a successful company that manufactures and sells wristwatches in South Africa. A large part of the production process involves manual handwork, and the watches are made in relatively small quantities, resulting in a personal touch and exclusivity that provides Watch It with a competitive advantage. Watch It uses an absorption costing system. Then when we are using the absorption costing system, it simply means that in our product, in our inventory costs and our cost of sales would include both fixed and variable production costs, would include both fixed and variable production costs when valuing our inventory. And they apply the first in, first out method to value all its inventories, and there's a 31 March year end. When we apply the first in, first out, that means our closing inventory will be valued according to the current period production cost. Right, Watch It has decided to change its absorption costing method from traditional absorption costing to activity-based costing as from 1 April 2022. Remember, with traditional costing, all overheads are allocated based on a single cost driver, whereas with ABC activity-based costing, we use multiple cost drivers to allocate our overheads. Right. Although all watches are analog watches with the hands and not with a digital display, watch it produces two product types: a traditional design watch, classic, and a contemporary design watch, fashion. The main components of any watch made by Watch It are one buckle, one leather strap, one case, and two hands. Except for normal losses already included in the production cost stated below, no other losses occur in the manufacturing process. No opening or closing inventory of any materials or work in progress exists at the beginning or end of the period. So we know that we are using, it's very important to read this first part of all your questions, because it will most likely state whether they are using absorption costing or they are using traditional direct costing. And it will also tell you whether they are using the first in, first out, or they are using the weighted average method, as they will affect our many things there. Right. Then the question is, we're now supposed to prepare prepare the actual statement of profit or loss of Watch It. Before I forget, please ignore everything that comes after that. All these things about question 3 and stuff like that. They are part of your module. Those are doing a MAC3761, but not for now. All right, so we're not dealing with them now. So please ignore those. And anyway, they are not relevant for now. So it's our questions, they are ending on this one. Then I will decide if I have another one, that depending on time. Right, prepare the actual statement of profit or loss of Watch It for the year ended 31 March 2022. Only the total column is required, but ensure that you show all calculations. Ignore interest, taxation, and the term value of money. Right, they only want the total, but for the sake of the class, we'll just do the separate products in case you are also asked to do the separate products. But when they say the total, don't waste your time doing the separate products. In some exams, they can tell you that they want the total only. In some exams, they can tell you that they do the separate products, but don't show the total. So please, always when you're answering your questions, read carefully the instructions in bold, or maybe sometimes in italics at the bottom of the question. Read them, because they will affect your work. Because like in this question, if you were writing this test or exam, you were not supposed to separate the products. You were wasting time by putting the separate figures. It will waste your time. It will be correct, but no additional marks. You'll only be getting marks for the total. So please, you should make sure that you read that. And another thing, in our exams or tests, sometimes they would provide last year's data, this year's data, the budget, actuals. So no, are they asking about the actual? Are they asking about the budget? And you should also know, is it for 2020? Is it for 2022? Is it for 2024? Is that right? So now here we know that we are dealing with the actual, and this actual is for the year ended 31 March 2022. And also remember that in management accounting, it's not always that we deal with the year. So you should also check that, am I dealing with a year, or am I dealing with 4 months? Am I dealing with 3 months? What am I dealing with? So here we're dealing with a year. Right. So we're going to do to answer this question according to absorption costing. Then if it allows us, we can also try to do it using direct costing, so that we can be able to know both approaches. Right. Right. So already I know that this is for 2022. So I know that this information here is irrelevant. Right. right? Extracts from revenue, costs, and unit information for the 2022 financial year. This is the information that we have here. Right, so a Baco, leather band, case 2 yen, total of direct labor and variable manufacturing overheads were given them. Then watch it calculated the following actual variable costing opening inventory values at 1 April for the purposes of short-term decisions. So these are the inventory values. So you should know that these opening inventories, they are calculated based on variable costing, that is direct costing, but they are applying the absorption costing. So what does that mean? It means we also have to add to these values, we have to add the opening, the fixed production overheads to arrive at the opening inventory values according to absorption costing. So what I'm saying is when you are given the opening inventory according to variable or direct costing, for you to be able to get the closing inventory according to absorption costing, you simply have to add the fixed production overheads per unit. You simply have to add the fixed production overheads per unit. Right. So during the 2022 financial year, watch it manufactured 2,100 units of classic and 6,150 units of fashion. The company sold units of classic and sold 2,000 units of classic and 6,000 units of fashion. Right. This remember that for us to do a profit statement, we start from the sales. As to do the profit statement, we start from the sales. Right. So let me just do a headline here. Actual statement of profit or loss. Watch it. For the year ended 1 March 2022. Right. Remember, I said that the question just wanted the total, but I'll just, for the sake of maybe you are in another scenario where they don't want the total only, you might need the separate products. So please, what I'm doing here is just to show you if they also want separate. So classic, fashion. Classic, fashion. Right. So if you were doing this actual question, there was no need to have classic and fashion. Please, I repeat, these ones, I'm just doing it because we're in class here. I need to illustrate in case you are asked to show the different products. But according to the answer of this question, you were not supposed to show classic and fashion separately. You were just supposed to do the total. Right. So we'll start with our sales in our profit statement as usual. Right. So we have to calculate for classic and for fashion. Right. We know that the sales units were told that is 2,000 and 6,000. Those are the sales units. And the selling prices for the 22 financial year were 3,000 for classic and 2,500 for fashion. Then commission amounted to 5% of the selling price of each watch sold in 2022, and fixed administration costs amounted to 950. So we've got what? The units what we have here, 2,000 and 6,000, we then multiply by the price, which is 3,000 and 2,500. So we'd say 3,000 multiplied by 2,000. Then the other one, 2,500 multiplied by 6,000. My friends, the 3,000 and the 2,500 are the selling prices, and the 2,000 and the 6,000 are the quantities. Can you calculate what we get there? Thank you so much. I've got 6 million here. Next one.
15 million.
15 million. Thank you so much. Right. So if you were not in the if you were in the actual test, you were just supposed to put your working like this: 3,000. We're just supposed to say, let's say 3,000 times 2,000 plus 2,500 times 6,000. That's it. Then you just find your total without finding the 6 million and the 15 million. Okay, thank you guys. Then less cost of sales. Right, remember that if we're using absorption costing, we'll be subtracting the cost of sales. But if we're using a variable costing, we'll be subtracting the variable cost of sales, not the cost of sales. Right, we have opening inventory. You should be very careful there. The opening inventory that we are given was according to direct costing. The opening inventory given was according to variable costing. So we are supposed to know what is the fixed overhead, so that we can be able to add the fixed manufacturing overhead cost to the production units. So if you are given so please listen to me carefully. If you are given the opening inventory according to variable costing, for you to get the opening inventory according to absorption costing, you take that variable costing inventory, then you add the total manufacturing overheads allocated to that inventory. You add the total manufacturing overheads allocated to that inventory. And if you are moving from absorption to variable, let's say you are given the absorption one and you want the variable, you have to subtract the manufacturing overheads. Right, to get our information, we have to go to fixed manufacturing overheads here. And remember that fixed manufacturing overheads are allocated according to budgeted figures, not actual figures. Fixed overhead absorption rates are allocated according to budgeted figures, even if you are preparing the actual statement. Unless told otherwise, we know that fixed manufacturing overheads are allocated according to the budgeted absorption rate. Why? Because they will need to make decisions during the year, but the actual activity levels will only be determined at the end of the year. That's when you know how many units have you produced, how many labor hours you have incurred, and stuff like that. So because of that, we can't wait to make decisions for the end of the year. You need to sell goods during the year. So because of that, our overhead absorption rates are calculated based on budgeted figures. Right. So we're saying the fixed manufacturing overheads are absorbed based on annual budgeted production units. So even if they don't tell you, you know that we use budgeted figures. Unless there are some questions that they tell you that they calculate the absorption rate using actual figures, then you just have to follow that instruction. But without that instruction, always your overhead absorption rates should be calculated based on actual, on budgeted data. Right, the predetermined blanket fixed manufacturing overhead absorption rate was 360 per unit in 2021. And in the 2022 financial year, it was based on budgeted fixed manufacturing overheads of 3,299,400 for the year and total budgeted production units of 8,461. Actual fixed manufacturing overheads for the 2022 financial year were 3,010,000. My friends, our opening inventory is coming from 2021. So we use the 2021 figure. So the 2021 absorption rate was given here is 360 per unit. And we know that the units of classic were 50, the units of fashion were 20. So to this value, we then add the fixed overheads. Right, so we would say for classic, Right. For classic, we're going to say the one that we're given for direct costing, which is 47,000 plus the fixed overheads. The number of units are 50 multiplied by the fixed overhead per unit, which is 360. Then to get the one for a fashion is 20,000 plus the number of units, which are 20, multiplied by the fixed overhead cost per unit, which is 360. Right. So please remember, when moving from the direct costing to the absorption costing, you add the fixed overheads. But if we're moving from the fixed to direct costing, we're going to subtract the overheads. Right, what do we get? 65,000 and 27,200. Thank you so much. Right. Then production cost. Add our production cost. Maybe let me mention that we're adding here.
Sorry, sir.
Yes, my boss.
The 47,000 and the 20,000, is it the
Yes.
fixed or inventory, or what is happening there?
Is the value according to variable costing.
Okay.
We're given the value according to the value of the inventory were already given. But if you see here, this is the inventory value, but this is according to variable costing. But we are preparing our financial statements according to what? Absorption costing.
Yes.
So we have to add the fixed overheads. We have to take the value that were already given. Then on top of that, we add the variable because it's not included. The fixed, sorry, manufacturing overheads because they are not included. Does that answer?
So which ones are the fixed?
The 360 that we added here. Yeah.
Oh, and then you multiply it by the units. The
Number of
50
units that
and
are
10.
given here.
Oh, okay. No, it's clear. Okay.
Thank you. Right. Our production costs, we add all our production costs, that is variable and fixed production costs. Right. There's a backhoe here. Both products types use the same type and size of backhoe. They use the same size and type of backhoe. So this one is 200. So what does that mean for this one? How much will be for fashion?
It's 200 as well.
200.
Perfect. Very perfect. They are using the same type and same size. So obviously the cost will be the same. So it will be what? 200. So that means the backhoe is 200.
Sorry, Eugene.
Yes.
Sorry, I just want to come back to the opening inventory. I'm a bit confused because with the information given on top, it says that no opening or closing inventory exists at the beginning or at the end of a period. So why do we include the variable costing opening inventory?
Yeah, you should, that statement, you should be very careful with it. It didn't say there's no opening inventory at all. It says no opening inventory of any materials or work in progress, not finished goods.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Is that right? So you should be very, very careful. It usually comes there when they say materials and work in progress are not necessarily finished goods.
Okay, thanks.
Maria, I think that's the thing that I've been explaining now, that we don't use the actual because we don't know them during the period. Our costing is done during the period. We don't know the actual activity levels to use to allocate the overhead. So that's why always we use budgeted overhead absorption rates to allocate fixed manufacturing overhead. Because the activity levels will only be determined at the end of the period. So we can't wait for the end of the period to do our costing. That's the reason why always we use budgeted overhead absorption rates. Right. I hope that answers you.
Yes, it
Right.
does. Thank you.
Then we have got the leather band. Leather strips are handmade mainly from leather band. That is pre-cut by the supplier. Right. Right. And I think we should read something first before we even consider here. The components, the main components are one buckle, one leather strap. So it's one case and two hands. But why are these things important? You should know that for the hands, it's two. For the other ones, is one. Right. So the leather strap, with leather band, we know that is one. So they're saying the leather strap are handmade mainly from a leather band that is pre-cut by this. Okay, sorry, before the buckle, I think I've not put the right thing there. I haven't calculated it. We just say 200, but we didn't calculate. This is 200 per watch, and this is 200 per watch. So we have to go and multiply by what? By our production units. During the 2022 financial year, watch it manufactured this. So please be very careful. On your sales, you multiply by the sales units. We use the 2,000 and the 6,000. But on production costs, you don't use the sales. You use the what? The produced units. So we'll multiply that 200 by 2.1 and 6,150. So all production costs will be multiplying by 2.1 and 6,150, except the closing and opening inventory, which will use different units. So we'd say 200 multiplied by 100. Then 200 multiplied by 6,150. What do we get? 420 and 1,230. Right. Sorry, I didn't write something here. This is the buckle. Right. Right. The leather strips are handmade mainly from a leather band that is pre-cut by the supplier. Each classic uses 20 centimeters of leather band, and each fashion uses 24 centimeters of leather band. The leather band is bought at 400 per meter. You should be very careful there. The quantity required is given in centimeters, but the price is per meter. So you can either do one of two things. Either convert the centimeters to meters, or convert the price per meter into a price per centimeter. Whatever you do, you get the same answer. Right. So we have to say it's for opening inventory. It's for opening inventory. Or maybe let me put them here so that maybe to avoid confusion. The working is down there. I did it for the space. Right. So we have our leather band. Would say for the first one is 20 centimeters. Then we divide by 100 to make them meters. Then multiply by the number of units, 2,100 times the price, which is 400. The 20 is the centimeters required per unit. The divide by 100 is to convert the centimeters to meters. The 2,100 is the number of units. Remember, the 20 centimeters is per unit. And the 400 is the price per meter. Right. Then for the fashion, the centimeters are 24. Divide by 100 to convert the centimeters to meters. Multiply by 6,150, the units produced. Then multiply by 400, the price per meter. What do we get?
For classic, it's 168.
168.
And for fashion,
1,000.
16800, yes, and 590 400.
Before I go to the next one, any questions on that? On the leather belly. Right, then we'll go further. The case is given 300 and 240. So we just have to multiply by the number of what? Number of number of units. So let's say case 280 multiplied by 2.1. And the other one 318 multiplied by 6,150. What do we get?
Sorry, I'm lost
Eugene,
at the
800.
where do we get the 280 and 318? I'm lost on the case one because I see 300
Eugene, you
and
used
240.
yes.
Or it's 300.
Yes, and 240.
Okay, I took it down there. Thank you.
And the next one is 240.
Thank you. What do we get? So is the 630 and 1,955,000, did they use the correct one?
1476.
Also, the 630 is correct. That one that was given by.
Yes.
Okay, so 630 and 1476. Thank you so much. Right. Then 2 ends. We should remember that there are 2. Classic uses 2 basic ends at 60 each. So you'd be very careful because they can give you the total price, it's 60 each. Whereas fashion uses 2 glow in the dark hands at 96 each. There is no price difference between the 2 hands of a specific type of watch. That is a minute hand costs the same as a second hand for a particular product type. Hello? Okay, so here we're given it's 60 each. So we should remember that we should multiply number 1 by 2 because each watch would need 2 hands. Then we'd multiply by the number of units. Right, so they have hands. Hands. 60 by 2 by 2,100. Then we've got 96 by 2 by 6,150.
$252,000. Oh.
Thank you. Right, then we've got total of direct labor and variable manufacturing overheads. Direct labor, thank you guys. Direct labor and variable manufacturing overheads, that's the 280 and 318 that I made a mistake that other time. Direct labor and variable manufacturing overheads. $280 multiplied by 100. And 318 multiplied by 6,150. Thank you. Right. Then we include our fixed manufacturing overheads. Now our fixed manufacturing overheads, we now have to calculate the overhead absorption rate for 2022. Remember the 360 was for 2021. So for 2022, we use the budgeted data, not the actual, the budgeted. That is the 3299400. Because what happens is the actual, we might know the amount, but we might not know the number of watches that will actually be produced. Because production we can plan, but what we can know is the budgeted production, but not the actual production. So that's why when we are determining our absorption rates, we use budgeted data. Right, so we'd use our budgeted total overheads and our budgeted number of units to calculate our overhead absorption rate. Right, so we'd say our fixed overheads absorption rates would say total budgeted fixed overheads divided by, they said they are using what? They are absorbed according to budgeted production units. You should always check, because sometimes they don't always use units. They can use labor hours, they can use machine hours, they can use any other variable. So you should always check, but here they were told that they are using budgeted production units. So that means we divide by the total budgeted production units. So they have, we are given the total budgeted overhead. So we use the budgeted figures, even if we're doing an actual statement, please guys, unless told otherwise. So that will be the 3299400 and the 8460. So that is 3299400 divided by the 8460. What do we get? Thank you. 390. 390 per unit. So to come here, we'll have our fixed manufacturing overheads. $390 multiplied by 2,100. Then 390 multiplied by 6,150. What do we get, my friends? Thank you so much, guys. 819,000. Two 398,500. Thank you so much. So this will be our total cost. This will give us now our production cost.
Sorry, excuse me, Mr.
Yes. You can go on. Hello?
Okay, you said we absorb using the budgeted.
Yes.
But in this scenario, we were given the actual. So if the actual is provided, we don't
You
have
always use the budgeted. That's what I've said.
even if it's provided, the actual.
Yes.
Okay.
Because remember that you are reporting at the end of the period, but these things happened during the year.
Oh,
So that actual activity, you only knew it at the end.
Oh, okay.
We
Oh.
always, I repeat, for overhead absorption rates, they are always calculated using budgeted data unless told to use actual data. Unless there's an explicit instruction that determine your overhead absorption rates using actual data.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Is that right?
Yes, thank you.
So we always use budgeted data, not the actual data. Unless they specifically say that we should use actual data. Right, then would less closing inventory.
Sorry, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, just to get more clarity on what you just said. If they had if you had calculated, let's say, total actual fixed costs divided by total budgeted, total actual production units, what would it mean if you were to calculate it like that?
That
What
would be
would it
wrong.
mean?
That is wrong. You're not supposed to do that. That would be a wrong answer. You are not even supposed to do that.
So basically it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Okay.
But if they want you to use the actual, maybe they will give you the actual production and the actual, then you would divide, instead of dividing by these budgeted units here, when they say use actual figures, you're not going to divide by this one. Instead, you're going to divide by these things here.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the differences between the actual and the budgeted are the ones that will give us what I will be coming to after finishing my closing inventory. That is the overhead under or over absorption. Right. Right, our closing inventory, remember it depends on whether we're using what? Weighted average, or we're using what? A FIFO. Right. So now we're using FIFO. So if we're using FIFO, calculate our closing inventory. Right, would say total production cost and closing inventory units. Divided by total production units. Right, but if we're using weighted average, both on the numerator and denominator, we're going to to add the opening inventory. Right. So how you calculate your FIFO will be determined by whether you're using weighted average or you're using the first in, first out. Right. So maybe we need to know how much are the closing inventory units first. I think we did that in the first question. I calculated the closing inventory. We're going to do that in the same way. We're dealing with units. So then we'll start with our sales. Sorry, opening inventory. The opening inventory units were given 50 and 20. So they have 50, 20. Right. Add production. The production were also given 106, 150. Less our sales. Our sales were given 2,000 and 6,000. Then you get your closing inventory. And remember, I told you that in our previous sessions that in some exams you may not be given the sales, but you know the opening inventory, production units, and closing inventory. You can just change the subject of the formula. So as long as you know 3, you can determine the one which is missing. You can find that they didn't give you the production. As long as you know the 2 inventories and the sales, you can calculate the production. Just change the subject of the formula. Okay, and my colleague here is asking for the a weighted average method. Right, let me just maybe give you the one for the weighted average method. weighted average method. The only difference is here at the top, we'll add the opening inventory value. Plus our total production cost. At the bottom again, we'll add the opening inventory units. That will be the difference if we're using the weighted average method. Right. Right, so here we're not going to use that one. You can just try it maybe when you're at home, when you're studying alone, but now we'll use the one that is relevant for the sake of time. I would use the one that is relevant for our answer, which is the first in, first out. So we're going to take the total production cost times the inventory units. The inventory units are here. Our total production cost is given here, which we calculated here, and the production units, the units were given. So we're going to say to calculate our closing inventory for classic, no formulas are not necessary. They are just, you are just supposed to know them. They don't require you to write down the formulas. Actually, they don't give marks for the formulas unless it's specifically asked. But these are just for your knowledge. So it'd say 2877,000 multiplied by the units (150), the closing inventory, divided by the production units 2,100. What do we get?
$205,500.
405,500.
500.
Thank you so much. So that will be our closing inventory here.
It's 205, not 405, Eugene.
Is that right? Right. Then fashion.
It's 79,527.
Profession.
Yes.
Let me just show the calculation first. Thank you so much. You said it what? Someone is saying 244, 120. Someone
Yeah,
said 79.
244, 120.
Any questions?
Eugene, I want to find out, right? So since the question wanted us to calculate for the total, if I wanted to calculate the closing inventory in total, was I going to add the 150 and the 170 and then
No,
use the
this one you
total?
have to calculate separately.
Oh, okay.
Remember, for you to get the total, you have to work with them separately. There.
Okay.
You cannot just add them up. So otherwise, this calculation was going to be necessary anyway. Or you can use the other way. Which can be shorter sometimes, but sometimes you see that. But if you have done already those calculations, it's no longer an issue. The leather band, we know that it's what? 20 for 400, is that right? So you can say 20 divided by 100 times 400. Find how much is it per unit. Then this one, you say 24 divided by 100 times 400. What do we get?
We get 80 and 96.
80 and
96.
96.
Yes.
And this one is 200. Right, the two ends, we know that they are 60 each. So you can say 60 times 2. Then 96 times 2, which is 120. And the other one is what?
192.
192. Right, then the fixed manufacturing overheads, you would have calculated that. Was it 390 or overhead absorption rate? Right, then can you give me the total for each? What is the 80.96, please? What a 1374 classic. And this one? $1,436. Right, then you take this and then you multiply by our number of units, the closing inventory. Then you just multiply by the number of units. That will be a closing inventory. And note that this method is only applicable if you are using FIFO. When using a weighted, don't use this method. Only if it's FIFO, then you can always determine the cost per unit. After determining the cost per unit, then you multiply by the closing inventory units. That's it. You get the same figure. So you can just use what you are comfortable with, any of the two. Right. Then the next thing is over or under absorption. Our overheads here, which we absorbed at 3217. Normally the over or under absorption, we only take it to the total. No, we don't allocate to the products. Right. This is where I think the gentleman who was asking about the actual, that's where we talk about the actual here. We now compare our absorbed to the actual. 3217, but the actual overheads were 3,010, 3,010,000. So we absorbed too much overheads. So it's called an over absorption. So our over absorption would be the 3,217,500, which we absorbed, minus the 3,010,000. What do we get?
Eugene, where are we getting the 3,010,000?
It's given on the question paper.
Okay.
Yeah, which I highlighted here when I was explaining.
Okay.
The actual fixed manufacturing overhead. Then the 3217 is the one that we calculated here. What do we get?
207,500.
If it's an over absorption, you subtract. Because we're saying the absorbed overheads were too much. If it's an over absorption, subtract. If it's an under absorption, add. Over absorption, subtract. Under absorption, add. There's an under absorption if the overheads we absorbed are there's an under absorption if the overheads we absorbed are less than the actual. Right. Then we can get our cost of sales. This plus, okay, let me just open the bracket because I would like it to be negative. Sorry. Any questions? So we've taken this opening inventory plus the production minus the closing inventory. Opening inventory plus production, opening inventory plus production minus the closing inventory. That's giving us that. But for the total, also remember that we also have to subtract the over absorption. Right. Then we get our gross profit. Gross profit is simply your sales less your cost of sales. That's your sales less your cost of sales. Right. Less expensive.
Sorry, Eugene.
Yes.
You are adding the over absorption now on top of the about. So if you do it the other way around, yeah, sorry, the formatting that I've been studying now is that the over under normally comes after the gross profits, and I'm just a bit confused. Will it be in the exam if I do it the other way around? Is it gonna be
There's no problem if you do your way. It's still okay.
Oh, okay.
But if you're dealing with it after the gross, in fact, actually, it's supposed to be before the gross profit because it's part of cost of sales. Because the over absorption or under absorption should be included in cost of sales. That's one thing.
Okay.
That we should know, right? But the approach that you are saying, then if you first find the profit, then instead of subtracting it, you have to add it.
I can understand. Thank you so much.
To the cost of sales, we subtract the over absorption, but to the profit, we add it. Then for the under, it's the opposite way. Okay, right. Then our expenses. Now, when all our expenses we'll now deal with all non-manufacturing costs. We'll now deal with all non-manufacturing costs. Right. We have here, I think I read something about commission. There's a 5% selling commission and there's fixed administration of 950. So we'll have sales commission. Right, note that the sales commission, you use the sales units, so it's on sales, 6 million and 15 million. The sales commission is based on the sales. So even if they give you per unit, please note that you calculate on the number of units sold, not on the number of units produced, because this is a selling expense. So if it's given per unit, multiply by the number of units sold, not the number of units produced, because this is a sales cost. What do we get? $307.50. Right. Then we also look at the, we're also given the fixed administration cost 950. Sorry. There will be no need to add for the single product. Because we didn't allocate all expenses to the single product, so there's no need for us to, unless if we had allocated all costs. Then we'll get our net profit. So that will be our net profit. Any questions? Right, because of time, I thought I was going to do direct costing. I can't do it. What will happen is if we're using direct costing, this fixed overhead was not going to be there. I'm going to come to you now, Marcos. So this fixed overhead, if we're doing direct costing, was not going to be there. And we're not going to add that fixed cost in our opening inventory. Our fixed overheads were going to appear here as a fixed, all fixed costs are going to be subtracted down here, including the fixed production. But before we subtracted the fixed cost, we're going to first subtract the commission, which is a variable cost, so that we could get the contribution. I think refer to our previous classes to see how you do a direct costing statement. Marcos. Hello, Marcos, she was raising a hand. Okay, when they are prepared, I think they will. Let us proceed. No, our net profit will only be the same if there's no inventory of finished goods, Leonora. they will be different. They will only be the same if we don't have inventory of closing in if we don't have inventories of finished goods. But if we have got inventories of finished goods, direct costing and absorption costing will give you different amounts of profits. Why? Because absorption costing will be carrying over some of the fixed costs in closing inventory, which will be carried to the next period, whilst direct costing deducts all fixed production overheads during the current year. So, but if we don't have inventory of finished goods, then they will give you inventory of opening and closing finished goods, then they will give you the same profit. Right. So, okay, let me just quickly do this next one. Calculate the budgeted number of the fashion watch products that Watch It will need to manufacture and sell to break even in the 2023 financial year, assuming a fixed product mix between classic and fashion. Right, now they want the break even. And this is for 2023, so we'll no longer be using the data that we're using. We're now using 2023. Idle time is part of the labor cost. No more idle time. So when we include our direct labor, it will include the idle time cost is part of our direct labor. The normal idle time is part of your direct labor. Right, so here is we're using the 2023 data, this one. The blanket fixed manufacturing overhead allocation rate for the 2023 financial year would be 400 per watch if Watch It continued to use traditional costing. However, if ABC is used, the following information for the year will be used to allocate the fixed manufacturing overheads. Right, those will be the fixed manufacturing overheads there. Watch It budgets to produce and sell 2,500 classic and 7,500 fashion. Sales commission will be 160 per watch, irrespective of the product type, and fixed administration costs are expected to increase by 12% from the 2022 actual figure. The expected contribution per unit for the 2023 financial year is 480 for classic and 530 for fashion. While given the contribution, there's no need for us to calculate the contribution. It's given. Right. So for us to calculate the break even in units, there are two ways. I will use both of them because I think there were students who were asking about the other way. There are two ways, so I will quickly use both of them. So we have total fixed costs divided by weighted contribution per unit, which is the one that I did for you with you in class. That's the first method. I will do the other method later. So let's do the calculation of fixed costs. Yes, right, our fixed costs. Right, we've got the fixed manufacturing overheads. Right, the fixed manufacturing overheads were given here. 1.7 plus 800 plus 1.5. What do we get? Then on top, we've got then on top of this, we are told that we also have fixed administration. They are going to increase by 20% from the 2022 figure, by 12%. And we know the 2022 figure was 950. These ones. So they will increase by 12%. So we have our fixed administration. What do we get? $1064, thank you. Then our total fixed overheads would be equal to the 4 million plus this. Right. Then for us to get our weighted contribution, so you see how I'm my line of thinking. First of all, I know that they want the break even. So I to determine what is it that I need for me to calculate the break even. And I know that I need the total fixed cost and the weighted contribution. So I found the fixed cost. So I need to know my weighted contribution. Right. The weighted contribution will be according to what we call the sales mix. The sales mix is the proportions that we are going to sell for each product. Right. The proportions that we're going to sell here, we're told that they're expecting to sell, we use the sales mix, not the production mix, but here they are the same, 2.5 is to 7.5. So that's 2.5 is to 7.5. And if we simplify it, that would be 1 is to 3. If you say 7.5 divided by 2.5, you are going to get 3. Thank you, Lebuhang. That's the same. 1 is to 3. Thank you so much. So to get your weighted contribution, we know that the contribution of each is 480 and 530. This is the contribution here. The expected contribution per unit is 480 for classic and 530 for fashion. Now to get your weighted contribution, you say 1 over 4. The 4 is coming from 1 plus 3 times the contribution of classic, which is 480 plus, you now take the other one, 3 over 4 times the contribution of fashion, which is 530. What do we get? What about our answer? Thank you. 517.50. So that will be our weighted contribution. So then our break even would be equal to 5,064,000 divided by 517.50. What do we get? 9786. Did you round up? 9786 units. Please, my friends, for break even, you always round up. So even if it's comma 1, you round up. And my friends have already rounded up. Thank you so much. So for break even, we always round up. So even if it was 9785.23, it was going to be 9786. Right. Then the breakdown. Right. On our question, they only wanted fashion. So you were just going to supposed to calculate the one for fashion, but they said calculate the budgeted number of units for fashion. So please, if they ask you like this to calculate the break even for fashion, you still have to involve classic here, as long as they sell various products. So there's no way that you can determine that fashion without involving classic, right? So at the end, the breakdown would say classic would use our sales mix 1/4 times 9786. Then the fashion would be 3/4 times 9786. What do we get? $7,340 for fashion. Thank you. And for classic, $2,447. Thank you. So this will be our break even. So the answer that was required was this one here, the 7,340.
Eugene? Hello,
Right.
sir.
Yes.
Tell me, how did you came up with that ratio of 1/3? The ratio where it
1/3. I said 1/4, not 1/3.
No. Where it says a sales mix.
Not 1/3. 1:3. You say
Yeah.
7.5 divided by 2.5.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? All right. Second approach. You can say total fixed costs over contribution per page. Right. The total fixed costs we've already calculated it. Right. Our contribution per page would calculate it as follows. Right. Our assumption would be a batch of sales would involve, we'll take it from the sales mix. A batch of sales would involve 1 unit of classic and 3 units of fashion. And we know that you heard the question there. The little one is already doing math at this age. Right. We have 480 and 530. So the contribution per batch would be $480 times 1 plus 530 times 3. The 1 and the 3 is the our sales mix. What do we get? Thank you. 480, 480.159. 2070. Thank you. Oh, this one was calculating them separately. Okay, thank you so much. I saw that. Okay, so then you wanted to add them. Okay, that's fine. So then our break even in batches. This one will not be in units. Would be our total fixed cost divided by our contribution per batch. Right, our total fixed costs, remember that it's 5064. Then our contribution per batch is 2070. What do we get? 2447. Batches you can round off. The batches you can round off. Can you just maybe round off to about 2 to 3 decimal places? It's not yet the final answer, so we can round off. 2446.376. These are not yet the units, so we can round off. We're allowed to round off at this stage. 0.376. Then now, we'll now do the breakdown now. We know that in each batch, there's 1 unit of classic. So classic would be 1 times 2446.376. We get 2447. Then fashion would be 3. That is the sales. My 1 and my 3 is coming from the sales mix. Multiply by 2446.376. What do we get? Seven, 340. This one you should round up, because that's our final answer. So these are the 2 ways of getting the contribution. Right, any questions? Yes, if you are not given the contribution per unit, that means you would have started by calculating the contribution per unit, whereby you start with the selling price minus all your variable costs, whether related to production or the commission. Right. Thank you so much. I think we'll end here. Right, at your own time. Hello, okay, I'm coming to you. At your own time, find ways to apply what we did in activity-based costing to allocate the overheads to the product using ABC. In this particular case, you can just try to allocate the overheads to the 2 products using ABC. That's the other part that I wanted to look at, but unfortunately I can't look at it. So just use those, what we have done to see how you can allocate those products, and also review our relevant costing, which we did. Because remember that is part of the topics that we are supposed to be doing. Right, any question? You can now come on, my sister.
You said the contribution per unit is selling price less what?
Variable cost
All right, thanks.
per unit. Or variable cost per unit.
Mr.
Yeah,
Eugene.
Yes, sir.
Please, man, when you have time, please check your DMs because.
The what?
Hello.
Yes, I can't hear you. What were you saying?
I'm saying I've done some calculations and I need the solutions from some of the class activities that we did not go through.
Very sorry if you sent from yesterday. I haven't even responded from yesterday. I've been hectic, and from now I want to do another class now. So
All right, thank you.
But I will respond to you. Very sorry for that.
No problem.
Okay. You need to focus on everything.
Eugene, did we do standard costing? Can you just remind me?
No, I think we didn't.
We didn't.
Yes, I just sent you notes on that. So just maybe look at it in case. Just look at one or two formulas there in the document that I sent to you. I only sent you notes.
Okay, because yeah, it's part of tomorrow's test.
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah.
You saw the test?
They said it's unit 1 to 7 and standard costing is what? You did.
No, I'm asking.
It's one of the learning units.
Our
That
friends
is
know
so
they didn't do that.
unfair. That is so unfair.
Just look at one or two formulas there.
Okay.
Yeah, so that you don't get disturbed. Yeah.
What time is auditing following, Eugene?
It should be auditing. I think it should be half 12. But right now I'm doing another class. But auditing should be half 12.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks. God bless you richly and have a blessed weekend. Sorry for disturbing your weekend, guys. Wishing you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Sure.